there's nothing saying that supplements are inferior to food as far as those sources. So for deficiency. And then it depends on your health goals. So for myself, I do take some supplements because I have certain performance goals I want to hit. So I'll take protein. I can't hit my protein targets, I'll take some protein. I'll take creatine. Sometimes I take caffeine. And that's because I have performance goals that I want to aim for.
So, maybe for a start, you just want to introduce yourself to our audience or anybody that somehow don't know you.
So I'm Ryan. I'm the Chief Medical Officer of Mito Health. I'm a practicing doctor licensed in Singapore.
Are you still practicing?
Yeah. So together with Mito, we see clients. We do consultations.
Oh, you
regularly.
do startups still can practice.
It's part of the startup.
It's part of
We're a licensed MOH clinic.
Yeah.
And I have a particular interest in the applied science of preventative care and longevity.
Okay, speak human. What does that mean?
So translating preventative science, translating all of the geeky longevity stuff into practical, actionable plans for clients.
Okay, interesting. Nice. And then yourself, for our audience that somehow don't know you.
I'm Kenneth, the co-founder, CEO at Mito Health. Yeah, so it's very exciting because I was running a fintech company before called Sidley. So after selling it, took a break, figure out what to do next in life. It was probably going to be insurance, building something in insurance, not to sell insurance, building something in the insurance space, Web3 or thematically aging. And the aging one was a big thing because...
personal calling. Feel like you're getting old.
Getting old, indeed. And also because like I've seen like how a lot of people close to me when they are not in the best quality of life or what we call good health span, and then they tend to lose their ability to think cognitively, ability to feed themselves, bathe themselves and stuff. Yeah, which links to all the MediShield and everything that.
Of course, yeah.
Cashew.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you guys on the show, right? Because to be fair, I think a lot of the best practices of this whole like health medical thing has been peddled out there quite a bit, right? I mean, feel free to challenge the thought process,
Sure, yeah.
But it's been peddled quite a bit. I would say a lot of people already kind of know. Whether they take action, that's a different story, right?
Yeah.
Right? But people kind of know eat what, do what,
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
Roughly, I think if most people get the basics that we all know right, you're 85-90% of the way there.
Okay,
The
what am I
10%.
missing then?
The first question is, have you ticked off the 85-90%, right?
Okay, that's a big missing.
That's right. And everything else is personalization and optimization after that. Finding the right nutrition plan, the right exercise plan that you can stick to, that makes sense according to your risk profile, your risk tolerance, what you can afford, and trying to find that sweet spot for you. And this excludes all the biological stuff. This is just talking about preferences and lifestyle. When you hit the biological things, I, for example, have a fairly strong history of heart disease, right? So I have different risk profile from maybe you guys. Who maybe there's cancer or there's dementia in the family. Juggling all of that and
What
putting
a
it
way
together.
to start the episode.
Demoralized straight away.
Positive, guys.
But it's all about finding that sweet spot for you. And there's no one size fits all, unfortunately.
Okay, so the 85% was set the benchmark already. And then the remaining 10-15 is variance tied to your biomarkers and you as a person and blah, 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 all those type of
that's
things.
right. But I think the weird thing now is that most people are majoring in the minors. We're focusing a lot on supplements. Let's buy this new supplement. Let's do this new cold plunge thing. Let's do something else, right? But,
Yeah.
I
There's a
think we
cold
need
plunge
to,
just down there,
That's
right?
right.
And I was like, why the hell are you plunging?
I mean, there are benefits. But most people forget the 85%.
Yeah, it's like the
before they get
silver
there.
bullet problem, right?
It is.
Everybody's looking for
Exactly.
the silver bullet.
Exactly.
Just cold plunge, your life will be sorted, right? Yeah, which is not true. Okay.
But that ties into how you allocate your funds, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to put all your money in your poorest performing stock in your portfolio. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted you guys to come in, primarily because of this, right? You have a mix in this personal finance experience and then this now your new health venture, right? To try to square this thing where at the baseline, I think we all know that people are going to live longer, especially for the middle upper class working professionals that can afford some of the best in class ideas. They're going to live much longer, centenarians maybe, right? And by extension, what a lot of people are saying, how about you spend on your health now, right? So asking me to spend more money now so that I can have a better quality of life that prolongs down the road is probably your baseline, ideas, right? And I wanted to square that. Like, does it really make sense, right? Is that really how it is?
I think the reality of it was a very personal experience. So when I was building my company back then and post-exit, like we were in a corporate job, I would say, within the Money Hero group, right? And I think We
Very
hung,
sian lah.
yeah, not sian, more like it's like we realized that money is important, but also like with all that money, right, where does health come in? And I think the most immediate one is every year when I'm doing my budget, right? Actually, every month I do one review. I will look at my insurance premiums on a yearly basis, right? I'm paying what 3,000-4,000 for premiums personally. And I think about the same notion of insurance is to cover your downside risk, right? And why shouldn't I allocate a health budget? A proactive health budget, because insurance is reactive, right? Insurance is triggered in the event of an accident, in the event of a early cancer, early CI. How do I also think about carving out a budget that is proactive, like gyms, like taking supplements, like hiring a PT, and that's how I framed up the amount of money I'm going to spend. It should be at least equal, or if not more, because it compounds as well. So your money might compound, but your health problems and your health habits compound both ways.
Okay, so that's the baseline of thought lah. Okay,
Yeah, one for one, right?
Okay.
Reactive, proactive kind of thing.
Fair. And, there's no miracle number to that, right? Essentially, this is his own framework of how he's thinking about it, and also shows that just cannot 做作, okay? He just needs to do something, huh? Cannot work a full-time job, right? I need to do the next startup.
Unemployable, right? Unemployable.
Very unemployable. Gotta keep doing something. Okay. So let us address the baseline first, right? Are Singaporeans all gonna be centenarians?
Yeah, there's a stat, right? So I
There
think
is something there.
last year, Lee Hsien Loong spoke about it during the rally. Yeah, and he talked about himself as a young senior. Actually, no, is he a young senior?
Kind of young senior.
Not so young. Okay,
Right, not very sure.
No, I don't want to call it
there's a definition, right?
You're gonna get a call soon.
he actually said like one third of the population will be hitting that their later years already and how with medical advancements, you used to be in the public hospitals, right? It keeps people alive. Keep people alive.
Yeah, I mean, will we all be centenarians? Probably not. Will many more of us be centenarians compared to the previous generation? I'm pretty confident that the answer is yes. Because even if we look at traditional life expectancy projections, every year we go up 0.16, 0.15%. And if you just follow that, by the time 2090 comes around, when the 1990 people are turning 100, right? The average life expectancy is probably going to be about 91, 92. So, and that's the average. So we're going to have lots, but not all.
Okay. But is that linear summation a valid thought process?
It's not really a linear summation. There's I'll probably butcher this, but not going into the weeds of period life expectancy, how it's calculated, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But
maybe you can, it's just share with us.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so the way it's calculated is period life expectancy. So if you're born this year, how long are you expected to live if you are subject to prevailing death rate of today? So if I have a kid born today, how long is he expected to live given the prevailing market rate of death right now? And the prevailing market rate of death changes as we go forward. So that number has been steadily coming down, gradually, but steadily. And this relatively conservative projection doesn't even take into account revolutions of healthcare. 1950s, 1940s, we had the antibiotic revolution. So mortality went down, life expectancy went straight up. And who knows, in the coming decades, we might have another revolution. That's what all these longevity scientists are talking about, right? They're looking for that pill that's going to target aging.
Is there something?
There are
that you
many
think it's
things
interesting?
in the pipeline that are interesting, but nothing yet, I feel, that has enough evidence that makes me think this is really going to break the biological limits.
Okay.
Right? We expect even the oldest people are 120 plus. Oldest in the world. Is there anything that's going to break that and go to 150? Not yet. I don't think so. But maybe.
Okay.
In decades? Question mark.
But all these are essentially just like moonshots, right?
Exactly.
And then we'll see when the breakthrough comes, right?
That's
But
right.
but without that breakthrough, what you're telling us is the baseline is that people are in the 30s now will eventually very likely live to like 90 plus.
90 plus.
Yeah.
Okay. Hence CPF life, right? Because people are just going to live too long, right? It's like,
Everything, right? Retirement age is being pushed back. Like my mom is in her 60s now. I just celebrated her 60th birthday. The only thing she asked for is health span. Like seriously, not because I'm in this line.
That's a very smooth plug, by the way.
It is, yeah. I had lunch with her. I brought her out to a nice place over the weekend, and she told me, I hope that in 10 years from now, another decade, my son will be 11 years old, right? And she's able to still run around, play with them, carry them, and it's all around health law. You know, in the later years, it really changes. When your bases are covered, your spouse might not around, right? But you kind of really want to ensure that there's a high health span.
Yeah. So I mean that's not a new concept, right?
No.
I mean I believe generations of people, you know, if you made it work, you know, and you wanna live longer, right? From the emperor to anybody, right? They all kind of want to do that, right?
In Singapore, I mean, with a high GDP per capita, you can see why a lot of the population is thinking like that. So I think that's why population health matters a lot to Here a Healthier SG. You got your CPF life planning and all those things.
Fair.
I think the interesting thing is it's traditionally more as you get older, you think about it. But more and more nowadays, we see the younger crowds, right? Maybe it's...
I mean, that's why you're on the show, right?
Maybe it's
people are talking about it. Yeah. Maybe it's a product of what?
affluence, right? Maybe it's just a product of changing times. But more and more younger people are coming in. Could be COVID, could be a bunch of different things that increase the awareness about health. And people are coming in much earlier, which is great.
Okay, fair. So maybe give me a little bit of a financial case for this, right? So from your mom is 60, right? And then now let's say you start a health budget, right? And then we can talk about what is within this health budget, okay? So if I start a health budget at 60, as opposed to, I'm not sure if there's a medical premise to this, right? As opposed if I start a budget of at 30, right? How much more impact am I gonna experience through the course of my life? I know a lot of assumptions in this question, right? So feel free to take it how you want to take it.
So something interesting is happening from a financial perspective. In this case, my mom, and I know many of our friends also your parents are in their 60s?
Yep.
Your parents are in their 60s as well?
Oh, my parents are young. They're in their 50s.
50s. Okay. Wow, that's young.
So when I'm an accident. Fun
fact.
Fun fact. That's a different discussion, not for today. Okay, yes, continue.
So in the case of my mom, like her insurance premiums, right? She's actually reviewing it quite extensively with her advisor, because she starts to realize, especially for life insurance, she has property, right? She has a will, she has savings here and there, she has ETFs everywhere. She starts to question the need of having a life insurance policy, right? A term, because she's on term as well. Because theoretically, does her dependents need to really worry that one day she goes and they cannot fend for themselves? So she's starting to carve out a budget for health, because she's now emphasis is not accumulating, but more of like, how do you start to ensure that you can remain at a able-bodied person for longer already. Yeah,
but this is also built on the case that there's an exponential curve in her insurance coverage, right?
Yeah, most policies, the premiums start to climb.
Exactly. So it increasingly becomes a viable alternative to explore as a result of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And even for myself, like I bought both a term and a whole life policy. Like my term life covers me until 70 or 75. Then I think like, actually, if I really go beyond 70, 75, do I really need it? Because my son will have been quite grown up already. So I don't know if you've gone deep into all these things, but these are things that I'm thinking of also as an individual. So I think for a health budget now, it's like reallocating it to actually doing PT. So I'm trying to get her onto a PT. But it's difficult because the heart is failing, which is one. The heart is failing, but mine is...
Okay. Auntie needs Zumba class.
That's
community. Hey, it's very cute. Community Zumba class.
Yeah, I swear they make it out on the spot. I walked past the Zumba class last night near my estate.
It's telepathy, right? Yeah, they're like all making it up, but they're all doing it
together. So they're making it out on the spot. Anyways. But yeah, Zumba class is great.
Yeah, sure. Maybe can you give us a little bit more color on that whole reviewing life insurance and then reallocating into a health budget? So from a numbers perspective, what are we looking at?
I mean, premiums wise, it really grows, as exponentially, because as you get older, more and more risk, right? At least 5-6K a year going to insurance premiums, and a large chunk of it is, of course, H&S, your hospitalization and surgical, which is important. That one must keep. But it's more of the life policies, whether it makes sense to keep paying for it, So I think then reallocating it to a PT. A PT costs one session maybe about $100. So you can buy maybe 40 sessions for the year. So it's $4,000. Yeah. Then eating a bit better. But honestly, eating all this nutrition is a bit hard. But I think more of the exercising one. Because she also won't push herself to go and exercise.
Okay. So to you, that is a wiser move?
I feel it makes sense if she tells me top of mind from 60 to 70, she wants to be able to play with her grandkids, then yes. Yeah.
And I mean, you believe the financial projections there. But from a medical perspective as well, it really makes a difference, because the same amount of time, energy, effort put in for a 30-year-old nets you much more results at 30 than the same amount of effort and energy at 60, right? Because there's things like what we call anabolic resistance, where you get less responsive to growing muscle, growing bone, growing strength as you get older. So what you do right now when you're younger nets you more gain than doing that same effort when you're 60 or 70. So it's all about that time cost, right? Figuring out where you get the biggest bang for your buck. And there's a biological reason for it too, why you probably want to start earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. So specifically, you're talking about like muscle, bone, like what are some of these things that, without going into like commoditize everything, right? Because we all know systems don't work on its own, right? It has to come together, right? But just kind of give us some color, like especially I think as a working professional, right? And in my 30s, I start to feel it, Right. Last time, here pain. Last time workout don't need to cool down, Then the next day steady, Now it's like, oh my God, what's going on, right? Like I can feel problems, How should I think about this thing in terms of like building it back up, muscle mass, bone mass, all these kind of stuff,
Before we talk about that in particular, it's not just bone and muscle mass. There are many, many different biological processes where it's not just about how high you are right now, like cholesterol, how high you are today. Sure, that matters, but it also matters about the time cost. How high times how long? So area under the curve. So how long you are exposed to negative stimulus or negative biomarkers, or how long you are exposed to positive stimulus is the real metric of success in terms of heart disease, in terms of diabetes, in terms of muscle bone strength. How do we think about it as we age? To be honest, there is going to be some entropy, right? We're all going to go down slightly. There's always going to be aging until some magic cure comes along. And we need to account for that. So the way I think about it is building as much reserves as you can when you are young so that you have so much buffer, so much spare capacity that even with expected decline when you're 80, you're still robust, right? You can still play with your grandkids, sure. So building spare capacity is one. And the second is slowing down the rate of decline. And that's very possible. You'll see studies of these endurance athletes. You'll see cross-country skiers. You'll see cyclists. You'll see runners in Europe, China, all the different populations. And there are guys in their 80s and 90s who are really living robust lives, who have really high fitness. And the only way they achieve that is by starting really high and being consistent. I would say for 30-year-old who's starting to feel the aches and pains of deep within your bones, it is a good time to start because we have a lot of capacity now to build that buffer.
Why you laugh? Because you're feeling it, is it?
I honestly felt it building Sidley, and that was like year 2, year 3. That was not. I was like mid-20s, and every day desk bound job, which is like what 80% of our listeners, right? The listeners,
for sure. Yeah.
So if you're desk bound, if you're listening to this, So what I did was I actually got a PT and strengthened my shoulder area and my back, right, my lower back, because I totally didn't know how to do a deadlift, totally don't know how to do a squat. And then I went for things like chiropractors. I actually went to pay and get my bones cracked. It didn't work. Then I was like, wow, okay, maybe I need to...
So do you think chiropractors
for me, no.
go?
It didn't work for me. I don't know whether it works for other
I'm
people.
clearly setting him up, right? What is your take?
Is it a medical thing? It's not. I don't know.
So the evidence base is not great, sure. There are good chiropractors, there are bad chiropractors. There are good doctors, there are bad doctors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So given the right knowledge set, good understanding of anatomy and things, you don't do things that are too risky, sure, you could be a good chiropractor.
Okay, fair. Yeah. And then you continue?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it didn't. So anecdotally, not a great experience. And I was also always unsure what they were trying to do. Like, then there was a lot of sound everywhere.
It's very performative, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Then I think the fundamental is you build better muscles, right? Like build more muscles and stability in your core.
Okay, fair. But whatever you've established just now with your mom as an example, right, is to me quite an easy case. Because by the time you are there, we are planning for a 20-year runway, let's say, right? Like, and 20 years is easier to plan than 50 years, right? So it's all about projection. And the push-pull factor is quite clear, right? Your insurance is going to be exponentially too expensive. Your kids are more or less settled. Correct. The concept of life insurance as output based on your life is no longer as important for the broader family structure.
Exactly.
Right? Then you drop that and then you invest reallocate it into a healthier way of life. Correct. Right? So that is, I think, quite, no need to dispute, right? It's quite simple. It's just a matter of choice, some perspectives on like whether you want to allocate or not, right? So that's that. But if we roll it into someone in their 30s, right, where they're competing priorities, I'm sure everybody gets it, right? Like you want to buy this, get this kit, do that, get this kit, macam like go to a shop or buy a kit. Discount. So the competing priorities, right? How do you then look at this thing? How am I going to spend my health budget in that sense?
I think one very obvious one that we see is that we always talk about this as our customer persona, right? Is usually when they see a real situation happen in their family. Like for me, I saw my dad actually had cancer. I saw how bad it will be if I don't step up on diagnostics now, if I don't step up on certain things to ensure that I can stay away from any of these diseases. I think cancer is one, Alzheimer's, dementia, metabolic problems. That's what a lot of people in their 30s would start to feel like, because they see it very vividly in front of them. I'm sure we see a lot of clients like that.
A lot of health triggers are what make people start thinking about it. I propose thinking about it slightly differently.
Yes, please.
I think health and wealth have a lot of parallels. And at this point for health expenditure, most of us aren't hedging our bets particularly well. You have all your healthcare budget, you allocate it to insurance. You have a little bit that you get from, benefits, from corporate benefits, and you allocate it to health screening. That's the same as taking all your investments and just putting it in crypto. Putting it in one.
Flame him.
It's not diversifying your portfolio. And if you want to hedge your bets, in the same way that we think about planning for our retirement, we need to plan for our health retirement. So you put it into, some higher risk things, Gerald's protective supplements that maybe will increase your life, You can put a little bit into that, but you still need to hedge your bets. You need to have something that's more steady. You need to have something that's lower risk. Maybe potential for lower reward, but you still need to invest in that. And it's hard for us to give you an exact number, right? How we can allocate it. But I think it needs a paradigm shift in how we think about health. That we need to invest and we need to put our time, energy, money into a diverse portfolio.
Okay. So with that as the basis, right? Can you kind of just lay out what are some of these things, right? Because you just said Gerald's health supplement. So like whoever Gerald is, right?
So to explain that, gerontology is a field of gero, which is aging and science, which is
gerontology science, is it?
Something like that, which is about targeting aging as a disease.
Okay.
To try and slow it down.
Friend called Gerald.
No, not Gerald. Unfortunately, sorry, Gerald.
Gerald, if you are listening.
The way I think about it is, one, of course, there's diagnostics and screening. And that expenditure will scale with age and risk. So as you get older, allocate more. As you're younger and your risk of cancer if it's very, very low, maybe you want to take that budget and spend it elsewhere. So that's screening. And it will scale with age, scale with your family history. Next, I think the biggest one is exercise. It doesn't have to be money. It could just be time and effort, but spending on things that keep you adherent. Because we all know that sticking to it is hard, and you can sometimes pay to make it easier, to be more accountable, to stick to something that you enjoy. If you don't enjoy running, you don't enjoy cycling, you don't enjoy bodyweight exercises, and you need to get some equipment, pay whatever you enjoy. There's nutrition. Again, is a big topic. Spending on healthier food, avoiding, junk foods can be quick, easy, sometimes cheap, but spending on better food. Supplements is probably some category that I would leave for last, because the magnitude of effect that most people get from supplements is probably smaller than they expect. And then there's emotional health, which has become a big topic nowadays. If you're not able to deal with your own stress management, deal with the social connections that you want to have, therapy is something that you could spend on. And that could get you huge benefits. Why live longer? Why live with money if there's no happiness, if there's no social connection?
Okay.
So those are the big buckets I would think about.
Fair. So you've kind of laid out a general direction on how you would allocate, or how someone can kind of think about this thing, right? Yeah. Okay, fair. So maybe give me a little bit more color on, like, based on the people you've worked with, like you said, right? Some of these things, like, we all know, right? Yeah, we all know. Don't need to tell me I'm so sian, right? I get it. But people are not doing it, right? Yeah. And you're talking about, like, using a little bit of money to kind of reduce that friction. How to think about it, right? Maybe just give me some tangible methodologies around this.
I think the biggest movers for most of us that we struggle with, and the ones that I see my clients struggle most with, exercise and nutrition. So that's obvious. And there are many strategies to go about doing it. Spending on higher quality groceries.
What constitute higher quality?
Rich in whole foods, rich in fiber, biased towards unsaturated fat sources rather than saturated. So things like fish, things like healthy fats, like healthy oils, avocados, that kind of thing. Spending on fruits, better snack options at home. Instead of stocking your pantry at the office or at home with chips, stock it with fruits.
But just want to dig your brain a little bit on that, right? Because that train of thought is very Amo, right?
It is.
And there's a little bit of a discussion around this of, like, how every healthy thing sounds like an Amo food. But the Asians have been around for a long time, right? Yeah. And we're probably longer, right? So there's a lot of cultural optics around this, like what considered good, right?
That's right.
So if you can help us contextualize, because I'm sure if you remove the Amo element, there are a lot of Asian things that are way more affordable, that is, like, equally, of good quality in terms of whatever you've just pointed out.
There are some barriers in terms of preparation of those foods,
Yeah.
But I think maybe taking one step back, when we look at you Google best diet for health and longevity, it always comes out Mediterranean.
Yeah.
It always comes out Mediterranean, right? But the problem there is that the reason why that's the case is because it has the most publications. Not saying it's the best, but it's the only one that has been tested so rigorously in terms of big trials and published in scientific journals.
Yeah.
That's not to say that other diets are inferior.
Maybe
it's just
the
that,
Italian mafia is behind this. So that they can sell more olive oil. Okay, anyway.
but when you look at all of the different healthy dietary patterns around the place, there are commonalities, and we try to pick these key themes, right? So we find what the common key themes, and we try and put that into an Asian context. These themes are relatively simple. Rich in fiber, mainly unprocessed whole foods, unsaturated, bias towards unsaturated fat, and slightly lower tier, maybe tend to be higher in fish, tend to be higher in beans, nuts, seeds. And in certain contexts, dairy and lean meat seem to be okay. So those are simple themes that we can incorporate into an Asian diet. And that would look like equivalent plant-based things. We don't have so many nuts, seeds, olives, sure, right? Okay. But we have soy products.
Tempeh.
We have, tempeh, tofu, all kinds of soy products.
We created them.
Exactly, right? And those are very possible. Fish as a predominant source of protein rather than relying on fatty meats. Incorporating a little bit of fermented foods.
It's a trend now, right? This
is.
fermented thing.
It is. I think partially because of this interest in gut microbiome health and things, fermented foods have always
always been around.
It's always been around, and it's always had healthful benefits if you look at the literature. It is possible, but I will admit it's pretty hard at the hawker center, right? Finding these things at the hawker center, and you need to be very deliberate about it. Looking for vegetables, looking for fruits, looking for beans, looking for tofu. Fish is always more expensive at the Cai Fan stall, right? Yeah, but these are things that we can allocate a bit more budget to make it easier for us. And for those of us that don't have time to cook, it is tough. But you can find these things at hawker center, which is why I also like the whole movement towards labeling foods at hawker centers.
It's very good.
I think it's very beneficial.
Nutri grade.
Right.
Like I personally, I've made more conscious decisions around different drink types.
I know what you're saying.
Like you start saying, hey,
at first it was a joke.
Yeah,
right? At first it was a joke.
What's this joke? Government control us, trying to control. But now you start, hey, wow, it's actually really good, right? And then they write the percentage next to it. Of your daily intake. Yeah.
How simple humans are, right?
Eventually,
this is A. Okay, I'll take it. Yeah.
I think that's also one of the reasons why, to your point on Singapore, like having a long aging population, we are the 6th engineered blue zone compared to the other cities and countries in the world, right? Like the other blue zones are like Okinawa, you have Ikaria, a few of these very ancient populations which have certain ways, but we are engineered as a society in that sense.
What does that mean?
Nutri-grade is one. NS is one more. National Service. Making public transport the default option is another one, so people walk more. Having multi-generational living is another big one. Like I put my son a lot at my mom's because then it keeps her active, it keeps her mind active. In the US or Europe, like you might live very far away from your kids, right? So then you start to distance yourself socially. So I think all these things matter. The void decks, HDB void decks are perfect spots for like the people, the uncles with the birds, they come together. Zumba classes, like all these things we take for granted as Singaporeans, but it's engineered, into this blue zone.
Fair. I always find it very cute when I see that.
The birds on it.
No, not the birds on the Zumba. A bunch of auntie down there, woo, exciting. It's like, this is very good.
It's heavily sponsored.
Yeah, I know.
Health promotion board.
And I think that's great.
It's great.
Yeah. Give me more Active SG credit.
The Luni Health, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Active SG is free to go to the gym. $2.50, state of the art.
Yeah, it's great.
I guess.
It's great.
Plug for HPB here, but they also have newer things that are trying to be more resistance
Really,
training
I told
focused,
them so many times must sponsor me, right?
So,
Anyway, yes.
They have these
like
health.
what?
They have these health labs where I think it's
right. Decathlon and a few
it's like $20 or less.
Hand grip
and
strength.
they go give you an assessment of your fitness. They give you a rough plan of what you can do. If I'm not wrong, you can convert that into a program that you can you can purchase a program in them. They have new gyms coming out that are for seniors.
Yeah, I was shocked, but in Toa Payoh, my mom lives in Toa Payoh. So Toa Payoh is a very aged estate, right? I think it's the second one after Queenstown. The gyms there were already so nice, the one at the stadium, but they just tore it down and they're rebuilding it again. I'm like, wow. You know, they're building it for more senior. Because for most people in their 50s, 60s, right, they don't want to go to gym really. They think of this as like young people, you know, like hogging the machines, but they are thinking about that.
Which is true.
Which is largely true.
Young people hog the machine.
That's why you need to create spaces that is more like a casual thing to go. That you don't feel intimidated, right, when you go to the gym.
Fair. Okay, that's interesting.
Hey, welcome to the Financial Coconut Podcast Network. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And if you're loving what we're creating here, like, share, subscribe, share with your loved ones, comment in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll see you for great content on Chills with TFC.
But I want to double down on this supplement thing, right? People get it, but hope you pick up some tips and tricks around how to think about this, right? And how to go about doing this. But supplement is the silver bullet, right? That's how it's seen.
That's how it's marketed.
Yeah, how it's marketed. Yes. So, and that's the part that I don't get it, right? But a lot of people are doing it, and I've guys, some of my team, they even talk about it. So I would love to buy this. Like, why, right? Like, get your other shit together. This not as important, But help us understand. Like, are there supplements that actually matters?
There are supplements that work. Each supplement has specific benefits for specific diseases or specific conditions, right? So the way I think about supplements is that yes, they can work. Magnitude of effect, as mentioned, is likely to be smaller than what most people expect, but that's not to say they don't work. I think of supplements as 4 big categories of supplements. The first is treating or preventing deficiency, and that's likely to be the one that gives you the biggest outcomes. So if you're iron deficient, replace your iron. Treat the underlying cause, but also replace the iron. Vitamin D deficient, vitamin B deficient, you want to supplement that, and that will be probably the one that you feel the most. The second group is for specific health concerns. So we know that omega-3s, if you're not consuming enough, you have that. Seems to have some benefit for heart disease, sure. So certain diseases, for inflammation, for joint problems, for heart disease, there are specific supplements that work. Third is for performance, right? So there's the cognitive and physical aspects of performance. There are supplements that seem to work. Again, not huge amounts, but they do. They get you the incremental benefit. And the last one is what I was talking about, longevity supplements. Those are the ones that are probably the least validated, the least evidence-backed at this point, but something that people are spending an inordinate amount of money and mind share on. So it's not just about money. If you think that my bases are covered because I bought this $80 supplement, and then you don't invest in the exercise and the nutrition, that's a problem. So I think it's not just about cost, but also mind share. And if you can afford it, by all means, do so. Just remember that it doesn't cover all your bases.
Fair.
Yeah, so that's how I think about it. If you can afford it, by all means do so. Understanding that there's only so much upside. There are some potential downsides. So there's always risks. Whenever you take foreign molecule into your body, there are some risks. So be it simple side effects like bloating, diarrhea. But there are also others. Some people, if you get a bad purity compound, there've been some kidney failures, some liver failures around the place. Yeah, so there's scares. Especially if you don't go for higher quality supplements. It's not without trade-offs. Most are generally safe for them to be classified as supplements in the first place, but you have to think about it.
Fair. So if we bring in the element of cost, right, in this thing, right, how do I then look at them? Or like maybe some things that if I have already done every other thing good, and then I'm exploring supplements, from your view, what are some things that make sense from a cost? I try not to use the word, but cost-benefit analysis, right? Like what are some things that you think it's value, it works, it's good?
So I think the ones that replace deficiencies are very clear. So if you're deficient in something, replace it. It's likely to benefit. If you can get it from nutrition, sure. But if you can't, there's nothing saying that supplements are inferior to food.
Okay.
As far as those sources. So for deficiency. And then it depends on your health goals. So for myself, I do take some supplements because I have certain performance goals I want to hit. So I'll take protein. I can't hit my protein targets. I'll take some protein. I'll take creatine. Sometimes I take caffeine. And that's because I have performance goals that I want to aim for. And that makes sense to me because I know I have this number I need to hit by a certain time and I'm trying to get there. But if you don't have that need, there is no strict need to. In terms of generally low-hanging supplements that seem to have pretty good evidence, and because they are so commoditized...
The caveat is very solid.
That's right.
Yeah, please continue.
And because they are so commoditized, they've been around for so long, they're so cheap. The common ones that we see in our practice are vitamin D, particularly because we are sitting here in artificial light, not in sunlight, not getting much in the heat. For women, iron supplementation. Magnesium tends to be pretty low in our diet. Omega-3s, if you're not getting sufficient fatty fish in your diet. And I would say if there's any performance goals, then protein and creatine are probably low-hanging fruits that are really cheap now. And those probably have more robust evidence than your fancy stuff.
Yeah, so can I just dig a little bit on this performance goals thing, right? Like, how do you frame your mind? What are you going for? Just to give everybody some context around this, right?
For myself, right now, I have specific strength goals that I want to hit. I want to be able to lift a certain amount of weight. And I have aesthetic goals. I mean, I'll be honest, right? I have certain muscle mass I want to hit, certain body fat percentage I want to hit. And that requires a little bit of thought and how to get there. So I do use supplements like protein because I know that certain days I don't hit my protein requirements. Creatine, to me, is one of the top supplements for physical as well as possibly cognitive performance. It's been around for so long. We have so much evidence on it in terms of muscle gain, muscle strength, endurance in sports. More recently, we have a little bit of growing evidence on its benefits on focus and attention. Not huge, but a growing body of evidence. And because we've been using it for so long, we also have pretty good safety profiles. You'll see things like, hair loss, kidney problems. But these have been pretty thoroughly debunked, looking at the meta-analyses of everything. I would say, to me, in the performance realm, creatine is the king of supplements. And I take a few others, but I'm not going to mention them here because I don't want other people to start taking them.
It happens.
But to me, it's creatine, protein, caffeine can get you pretty good performance benefits. And there are others which I'll leave for another day.
Okay, fair. Nice. So with that as the basis, right, I want to kind of understand that what are you guys trying to do? Because what you're trying to do is some sort of a diagnostic element to this. How does that then help me? What should I spend on you? You know what I mean? Yeah. What are you trying to do then?
In one sentence, we are a virtual longevity clinic. And what that means again is that we take your bloods, we analyze very in-depth biomarkers around diseases that will come and hit you 10, 20 years from now. We tell you which is those disease and we give you a plan around how you can think about pushing back those disease. The biomarkers we test for are a lot more in-depth across a variety of spectrums. And if you take the same biomarkers that we test for, you walk into any clinic, I think two things will happen. One is going to be extremely pricey. And number two is that the doctors might not know how to interpret the results. And it's a very complete package. It's something you can do once a year. It's meant to place your annual health screening, especially in the executive tier. Because in health screenings, in the market now, there are CHAS screenings, right? There's the government $10, $20 screenings. There is like your $100 range screenings, and then there's anything above $300. So we play in the above $300 range. Yeah.
Okay, so help me understand a little bit, right? I mean, the assumption is you pay more, you get more stuff, right? Right. Why do I need all these things? What are you really measuring? Just so that, as a layman, I understand, like, why do I even need to measure these things, right? Yeah. That's up his alley, right? Yeah.
And again, there's no one size fits all. There's no broad recommendation that everybody should do the same test. But in general, what we're trying to achieve with the tests that we've added in, so our panel is not revolutionary. Most of it is what you're going to find at a regular health screening because they are important. But we've added in a few additional tests which we think, one, help to predict future disease better. So you don't want to wait until you have prediabetes before we say, hey, it's time to start taking action. We want to take action way before prediabetes even starts, right? So we want to be predictive. We want to help you understand your results better. So that's what we're building products around, building features to help explain results and tell you what that means in terms of your action plan. And we want it to be a better motivator because if you don't know about it, you just cover both eyes and carry on with life. There is no drive to improve on these metrics, and they really will give you great benefits in the long term. So we want to provide these three things, which is better prediction, better understanding, better motivation. In terms of specific tests that we do, most of them are not revolutionary. We have a few tests which we think are worthwhile. I don't know whether that's something that you want to get into.
Sure, just give me one or two that you think it's more interesting, that people should explore.
In the blood side of things, a few tests that we do are two different cholesterol markers. One of them is called lipoprotein little a. One of them is called apolipoprotein B. And these are tests that help us to predict the risk of cardiovascular disease a little bit better than the traditional markers. And it's, again, not new. The cardiology societies of Europe, Canada, US are already starting to recommend these things, but it hasn't trickled down yet. We also recommend things like insulin testing, which helps us to figure out insulin resistance, which is, I'll get bashed by endocrinologists when I say this, but it's a precursor to prediabetes. That's a very oversimplified term. So even before diabetes, we pick up insulin resistance. Things like DEXA scans, understanding your bone density, your body composition, these can be useful to plan how you allocate your resources again. If your bone density is weak pretty early in life, sure, maybe you want to reallocate your cardio training, maybe you want to put more into resistance training, into calcium, protein, vitamin D. And that can help you allocate time and money. There are many other tests. I don't think I'm going to go into all of them.
I'll touch a bit also on the add-on stuff. The add-on stuff is really, really interesting. As someone that didn't come from this world 2 years ago, things like blood allergy testing, like we do allergy tests that is not your typical skin prick test. A lot of my fintech bros, right, we were talking about it already. Yeah, like because we were eating together, and then we were like, hey, how come you don't eat egg? And it's like, oh, I'm on this gluten-free thing because I think I'm allergic to gluten. And then this person, I remember distinctly, he runs a food tech startup somewhere, but he's very into finance. He actually said that I must go all the way to Europe to do this test. At that point in time, I didn't understand anything about allergy testing. I was like, wow, you must go to Europe. Tell me the clinic. I'll go there one day. But actually, we run it as well now.
So you brought it here?
No, it's already there. It's just not publicized. Then there is liquid biopsy. It's a very new thing that some sub-segment of our clients are doing liquid biopsies. So also, like, we collaborate with different startups. So we're like an aggregator of like various testing, diagnostic services. You can actually find them all on the Mito Health platform, and then you get to look at all your data in totality. So you look at your scans next to your bloods, next to your urine, next to your stool samples. It's all in one place.
Okay, fair.
We'll insert some medical disclaimers
Oh,
here.
yeah. Medical
It's
disclaimer.
not, again, I wouldn't recommend these tests universally. For lack of a better term, it depends on your cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah.
And everybody's will be slightly different. Some of these tests are more validated than others. And if you understand that going in with your eyes open, it could make sense for you. Recommendations are based on population healthcare economics. But on the individual basis, your risk tolerance might differ from government. So figuring out which of these tests, even if they're less validated, if they have good utility, applying them intelligently might be right for you.
Fair. And to be fair, I think for a lot of people, when they even start to entertain this whole health budget thing, right, it's also a step by step, right? Eventually, I'm sure people will just scale up if they really buy into this thing, and then they just kind of move up that. Oh, maybe I should test this other thing also, right? Like, is that kind of what you observe?
Not really, because for most of our clients, I actively discourage that because it's very easy to get sucked into a rabbit hole of expenditure on healthcare. But we also want to be realistic about what is actually useful. If a test does not change the action, why do it? If it doesn't change the actionable, it has very little value. So it has to make sense and it has to be actionable for it to be worth doing. So I actually discourage people from doing over-testing. Because like I said, what's going to move the needle?
What about the DNA swab thing? It was quite hot for the past few years, right?
23andMe circle.
Yeah, that whole thing. And it make it sound like your DNA is everything. Essentially what you talk about the mind share thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit annoying. But anyway, please just give us your spiel on it.
I'm a bit of a buzzkill, I think. Because I
Not a bit lah. But I like to read old books. I feel like that's the trial and tested stuff. You know, like the frontier has that marginal benefit. And I think this is consistent across fields.
Yeah.
Right? Like the frontier has marginal benefits. There'll be a few of these frontier things that really break through.
That's right.
But actually the wisdom lies in whatever that's tried and tested. And over time, the tried and tested things get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So from a cost benefit, the old stuff are good enough. So I understand your train of thought, but I want to hear what you think of all these DNA things.
Yeah, so there are some of these new breakthroughs that are really changing the game. And I think I'm optimistic about liquid biopsy. Is one of those things that I'm very optimistic about that I think could really change the way we think about cancer screening. In terms of the genetic tests, I think they are quite limited in their utility because there's so many other factors besides genetics, not just your genes, because our genes are pretty much almost entirely the same, but we're so different, both in terms of our disease risk as well as our phenotype. I mean, how we look, how we show up, what we do. And there's many layers on top of just the genes. What's expressed, what's turned off, what's turned on, which of it actually translated into proteins, into enzymes, into what we use. The genetics is only one part of the picture. And I think based on a few different studies applying precision genetic stuff into healthcare interventions, the outcomes haven't been much better than just traditional things. The one example that comes to mind was genetic nutrition. You are predisposed to digest carbs better or predisposed to digest fat better, right? So that's something that comes up in a lot of these testing. Unfortunately, in that study, maybe there'll be more that prove me wrong, but unfortunately in that study, when they gave the low carb, the people that are predisposed to carbs or fats, the specific diets or the different diets, there wasn't really much difference in outcomes. So I don't think it's ready for the prime time yet, is what I'm saying. There is potential, but right now I'm not applying it to every client.
Fair.
I'm applying it selectively.
Okay. A lot of caveat, huh? So let's bring it all back, right, into how then this translates to a financial standpoint for our audience, right? Because I know some finance providers, especially life insurers, if you show them that you are of a better health, actually the premiums do come down. But I just want to check from your view, right, based on what you understand, because you straddle both worlds, last time and now. Okay, so from that view, better health, does it translate to any upside financial benefit now? From a cost-saving perspective.
Actually, one of the most complicated things about healthcare today, even in the news a few days ago, right? You can see how the payer model is extremely important. And what does the payer model mean, right? It means that usually a lot of healthcare is closely related to insurance because it's like claim. The payer needs to be closely aligned with what's happening in terms of diagnostics, in terms of preventative health stuff, because we are actually the most on the same page. We are literally on the same page. We want to keep people healthy for longer. Insurance wants to keep you healthy for longer so that you keep paying your premiums and they don't pay out anything. Yeah. So there is definitely the alignment of interest.
Sure, that's why if you go to the gym, they give you cash back.
Yeah, I think there are different insurance.
It's not
right?
rocket science, right? Yeah.
So then they want to see your stat data. They want to see your, I think they call it the active minutes or something.
Yeah.
I think in 10 years time, I think we will see very dynamic policies based on all this activity data, based on sleep data, based on nutritional data. And I think it's only the logical way, because you can't keep solving for the downstream solving problems. You can't keep solving the bed crunch at the hospitals, right? Keep on launching one more hospital every few months, right? You need to solve the upstream stuff, which is where the preventive health. And the most aligned people again are the insurers and the government, of course. But insurers play a very big part in this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair. Nice. So I think you guys share a lot of good stuff, right? I'm sure quite a few things will go viral. I'm not sure if that's the goal, but any last things you want to add, maybe from a personal standpoint, for all the working class professionals out there, making their money, trying to find a good life. Any last words of wisdom?
Invest in your health. Invest in your
That's
health.
so pluggish, right? Like, give me a bit more.
It's true. I think that's the thesis I had coming out from finance. We always say like how it's so similar, but it's really the case. Like, and this investment in health comes not just in the form of money, but it's in the form of time, effort, right? Commitment to something that you can stick to. And having lived through it, I would say the last coming out from finance into health, like it's the thing that lacks in most people, like the actual time and effort spent into good health.
Fair. Yours?
I guess. So as not to repeat things,
Yes,
I would
yes.
say don't let perfection get in the way of progress, because you'll see things like even the HPP recommendations, exercise 150 to 300 minutes a week. And then most people think, crap, I can't get 150 minutes, might as well don't, right? No, I mean...
1 or 0.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not 1 or 0. You get benefits from just starting. And that applies not just for exercise, it also applies for eating. Sure, you had a bad weekend, you had lots of drinks and ate the whole pizza by yourself. Just get back on the program. If consistency is king, if at the end of the day, 95% of your meals were great and 5% were not so great, you're in a much better place. So don't think about achieving perfection. Just start building small habits, and that's where you're going to get the biggest outcomes. Many people ask me, oh, sure, so what's your training program like? And then how do you get to where your fitness is now? It doesn't really matter what I say, because the answer is 15 years of training. It's consistency. Even though I messed up for many years, sure, but I've done it for 15 years. So that's how you get the big moves in the long run.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time, and I hope you do well in your new startup.
Well, let's see.
Right?
Thank you.
Let's see. Thank you. Awesome. That's a wrap.